Okay, perfect. Dr. Perito's making his way to the stand. Okay, I'm Premal Patel, so I'm from the Men's Health Clinic Manitoba as well as the University of Manitoba. So I'll be moderating this very exciting talk on lessons learned from starting my own practice. Here are my disclosures. Here's our panelists. So Dr. Jagan Kunsel here from Down There Urology, Dr. Paul Perito from Perito Urology, and Dr. Jonathan Clavel from Vitality Urology Institute. So thank you guys for joining. So, just getting into this right away, and, kind of getting to that first question, you just finished residency, you finished fellowship, you may be several $100,000 in debt, and what was the bright idea of saying, well, I'm gonna go in more debt and maybe start a private practice, whether you started early or late. So Dr. Clavel, why did you do what you did?
With me, it was a little bit different. I mean, when I went into private practice, initially joining somebody and I was employed, but more than the getting out of residency or fellowship, but why I went into private practice, I was living about 45 minutes to an hour from my current job, and I wanted to stay closer. And I also found myself that I was in a very bad situation business-wise, and my options were either I would be employed by a hospital or I would go on my own. I had good friends, I had a good support system, and people who I could model from, and I decided to branch out on my own.
Awesome. Dr. Cancel.
Yeah, I think this is the most important question. I've gotten a lot of questions related to this. I think if you're considering starting your own practice or going to private practice, you really need to figure out this question. Everyone gets scared of the logistics of starting the practice, and there's plenty of people to help with that part. But if you don't have a good reason why to start it, I think that's really the first step. For me, and anyone that asks me questions related to this, I say don't go in it for the money. There's a lot easier ways to make money that are less stressful. For me, I did it for the control, right? I think Justin did a great job kind of pointing out kind of the men's health industry, but it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and we're kind of giving up that control, whether it be with misinformation, whether it be private equity, whether it be hospital-based stuff. And I got tired of kind of working with corporate healthcare, is what I call it. And we are all very, very smart people in this room. You shouldn't be scared of the business aspect of it. That's actually the easy part, to be honest with you. Or there's people that can help you with that part. But for me, I think it's all about control. And I think if we work together as a community, we can take back that control a little bit. And this is my kind of small step towards doing that. And that's why I started private practice.
And yourself, Dr. Perito?
Well, I'm 28 years out, so I probably shouldn't even be up here. Wait, how many people in the room are under 40? Awesome, that's great. How many people in the room really want to be an andrologist? Focus on that. That's great, because if you want to be an andrologist, that practice clearly lends to a private practice. It's not like you have to be part of a group to be an andrologist. Coming out with all the debt you all have, I would be terrified, and I was terrified when I hung my shingle. And actually, how I got my patients, I did a talk, gay sex on South Beach, and I had a practice in a day. But that's not the way things work anymore. And Dubin's talk, I hope everybody that was in the room was paying attention to that, because I think Clavel will be able to tell you something about this telemarketing and having, as we go forward, to describe what we've done to make things successful. But andrology it really lends to having complete control of a practice. You don't have to rely on anybody else. And yes, it's terrifying, and yes, you have to have some capital input, but it's worth it.
Perfect. And if anybody has any questions, they can come up to the microphone just because we have the limited time. So I'll kind of move on, kind of some other questions. What were some, what are or were some early challenges? Jonathan?
Yeah.
Jagan first.
So I'm about a year and a half out. We started our practice about a year and a half ago. And, it's just learning the intricacies of the business side of stuff. We've always taught about treating patients, which is 100% true. But I remember our first couple days, we're just trying to figure out how to collect a copay. It's like these really simple things that you're like, that have been done for you. But I don't want that to scare people, right? Like now I've been in a year and a half into it, and it feels like a regular clinic day, right? Like it feels like I'm seeing patients and not worrying about the business aspect of it. And it will get to that point if you guys start your own practice or even join a private practice. It will get to a point where you feel that normality. The first 6 months, yeah, it's gonna be complicated. You're gonna have to figure things out, but you have good people. The one thing I learned is that there are so many people that are willing to help. It's not a competitive market where it's like, it's almost like a family, right? Like, I know Rachel Rubin was a big advocate for me. I talk to her all the time. She kind of helped me get started. People here and people that are interested, I've helped get started, you know, and it's a community of people. So I don't want that to scare people.
So for me, I mean, I'm still in the very, very early age. I'm only 2 months into my practice. But I mean, some of the early challenges are identifying what are the things that you need. Fortunately nowadays, I mean, we have podcasts, we have you know, colleagues, friends, we have people who we can model from, right? I mean, again, look at Paul Pareto. And sometimes it's just a matter of mindset. For me, I needed to understand that, hey, like, this is not something that we have to be scared of. We are physicians. There's nothing more difficult than going through medical school and going through residency. So we are already accustomed to be having challenges. So now this is just a new one that we just have to face. And the important thing is, you know, for me, is I needed to understand that I needed to keep a mindset of the thirst and the hunger for me to continue to grow my practice. Something that I modeled that from is he's actually sitting right here. Paul Pareto, he has this very successful prosthetic, you know, practice, andrology and men's health practice, and the guy still continues to hustle, and the guy continues to, you know, give content out there for patients to be able to get to his office. So it's something that you can actually model from, and sometimes you can just pick up the phone, call somebody. I mean, Jagan, Dr. Cancel was a humongous help for me. He knows that. And sometimes we can share those challenges and we can grow together.
Hey, Paul, I'm going to move this. The next question's for you because it's sort of this more seasoned guys. You know, just to add to their piece as well, when we're thinking about starting a private practice, you have all these ideas and, you know, this is how we're going to float, this is the business model. I can say if we went with our business model when we first started, we would not have done well, right? So you, like, you know, it's about pivoting and knowing the market and seeing how things go, and I think it's, you know, being a bit moldable. But moving to some more like the mid to late career challenges in terms of when you have a private practice, can you shed some insight on there, Dr. Pareto?
Well, there's not many mid to late here. You know, that biggest challenge, and I'm going to go back very quickly to the beginning, is just waiting for your phone to ring, and it's terrifying. And I remember one of my older, he was from Harvard. He looked like very Norman Rockwellian. I had my boots on, and he's like, your phone, you will learn to hate your phone. And you do learn to hate your phone. But I think that as especially, you know, mid and later, you start to realize how underpaid we are. And anybody that's been down to visit me in the last 2 years, and I'm pretty sure, when you came down was what, 4 years ago, 5?
It was about 6, 7 years ago.
6, 7 years ago. But I was already talking about how we are not compensated for what we do. And yes, there's certain things that are insurance-based, but there's a lot that's not insurance-based. And there's a lot of, for example, penile implants. There's a lot of states that are no longer, you know, you can't find an insurance company that's covering it. Hey, guess what? You got to learn how to, you know, build a cash pay platform for your IPP. You got to learn to be able to look somebody in the face that complains about a $25 copay, but they'll go to Boston Medical and spend $1,800 for a Doppler, no answer on the Doppler, and 8 injections. And that is violating all of us. And hopefully our societies, and this is one thing I hope to do, you know, with all of your help, is we start calling out these corporate entities so we get paid what we're supposed to be paid. Because I'm so glad today we're actually having a conversation about our compensation. So that'll be a challenge to you. When I do an implant for $800, I Scotch guarded one of my couches so my kids don't throw up on it for $800, all right? I mean, we are worth much more than that. So that's the biggest challenge, is understanding you know, how to look at a patient and say, no, you know, it's not a $25 copay. You're paying me this for that service. And actually, the people at the front are the ones that do it. And you know, that, if you have some good people that can talk cash, it's going to make your life a lot easier.
Excellent. Okay, are you able to take time off? Jonathan?
Man, again, I just started.
It's okay, it's okay.
So I'm still, sometimes I stay up until midnight scheduling my own surgeries because my schedule quit. So again, I'm in the thick of it right now, but for the most time, I mean, that's actually the biggest challenge. When people tell me, it's like, oh, you're gonna kill it, I mean, you're so successful already. I know that I can kill it. The question is, like, what will I have to sacrifice in order for me to get there? And my friends in the field know that. We have to understand that burnout can happen, and you have to sometimes obligate yourself to say no, sometimes obligate yourself to take that time off. Am I able to? Sometimes, but for the most part, yeah, of course, yes. You have the good thing that we have in private practice is we have control.
I'm going to mention something. I think it's like well prep. You know, it's like you got to put the time into it, and you have to look at your long-term goals, right? There's two options here. If you start your own practice, you're trying to build something for the future. So yeah, the first couple years are going to be tough. You're going to put a lot of work in, and you're going to try to build that so that you have a better life later on. If you compare that to a hospital employee job, and I'm not saying anything wrong with it, but you're an RVU-based model, right? And if you don't work, you're not going to get paid. So it's just a different mentality of it. It's what you want to do and what your long-term goals are, and you really got to figure that out. And it's not. I'm not saying private practice or starting your own practice is the right answer. It's a lot of times it's not the right answer for people because they don't want to do that, right? But you just have to figure that time out. But when you start your own practice, you got to know the first couple of years you're going to be working really, really hard, but it's for a better long-term goal.
What's an RVU? I just love that. Yeah, you're only as good as your weakest link. Is my research fellow here, Alfie? Yeah, he's not. My PA is here. This time off, if you surround yourself with a supportive team, you can get that time off. But you know, it's not easy these days, and you really have to vet the people. But it turns out that most PAs, most people that work as ancillaries for us physicians, would love to have a position with any of these men or women in the room when it comes to an andrology program. Then you can get some time off.
Excellent. Okay, do you incorporate non-surgical and surgical procedures within your private practice? Let's start with Dr. Prado.
This is something, how many people are members of SUPS? Not enough, okay, not enough, because this is a group that can lobby for us. I love it when my colleagues say, oh, you know, we're gonna get a code for a glanspexy. Do you know how much a glanspexy pays? Does anybody know? Come on, one of you guys knows.
About $500?
Not even. $125, and you have to fudge it the way the AUA tells you to fudge it. And if the government comes in, what do you think they're going to do with that fudged money, which is nothing? So we have been trying to incorporate so many more procedures in the office, whether it's lipo of the mons pubis, glanspexy, a lot of circs. You know, the more you can incorporate into your office for cash, the better it's going to be. So this should be something that if you go into private practice, you got a little suite. It doesn't have to meet the requirements of a real OR, and have something where you can do cash pay procedures in your office.
One thing that I would like to add in terms of that is something that I've actually been doing since my previous practice. Like, again, we have leverage, and in some sense, so sometimes we can actually negotiate with a hospital that you're not employed with, right?
Yeah.
We're not employed by the hospital, so we can actually negotiate with them and tell them, like, hey, you give me a good self-pay price for my patient, for my self-pay patient, and I will be bringing in a lot of insured patients that you will be making a lot of money from, and therefore you can actually then get more money for yourself, and you can set a better, it's an overall less price, but now you're getting more money for that self-pay patient instead of the hospital. So whenever you go into a hospital and try to negotiate with them, they're gonna ask you, oh, so what's the CPT code for that procedure? I tell them, forget the CPT code, just tell me how much will it cost me for me to be in your OR for 1 hour. And sometimes they might tell you, oh, but no, it all depends on the instruments. I'm like, I just need a general instrument set. I don't need anything special. The implant, I can make a contract with the implant company. You know, my practice can make a contract with the implant company, and then you just give me how much does it cost for me to be there, and therefore you can reduce the overall cost. The patient is paying less overall, and now you're getting a little bit more in your pocket. Your practice is, sorry.
We don't do a lot yet, but I think it's 100% where we should go towards. I think we should bring a lot of the stuff into the office personally, you know, just to, you know, my oral surgeon took out 4 wisdom teeth in his office, and I should be able to do a hydrocele in my office, right? Like, it's ridiculous that we have to go to the operating room. We don't do that. And I love what Dr. Ziegelman's doing in terms of kind of taking the next step in terms of, you know, trying to figure out what we can do in the office. Because if they're doing it, I mean, there's no reason why they're operating on my mouth and I can't do a hydrocele in my office. So I think that's a different conversation, but I think we should do more.
Okay, we probably have one more time, just for one more question. Okay, do you incorporate academics into your private practice? Start with Jonathan.
Of course. I mean, and that's something that's, we have this the dichotomy in our minds that we have to split our brain in half and be like either private practice or academics. And I mean, I always like to challenge everybody around us, including myself, like, hey, we can actually do both. And it's okay to do both, and you can actually be very successful doing both. Again, and Paul publishes all the time.
How long was this session? Time for it?
15 minutes.
15 minutes. You believe that shit? Do you believe this? This should be a 2-hour talk. This room should be filled because, you know, this is where we get paid. This is where we actually enjoy the practice of urology. And if anybody saw that CNBC validated questionnaire, most stressful job in the US, us. Because all of these, what'd you call it, DTCs? Direct-to-consumers, they're all treating the patients, messing them up, and then we get them. So we need to, you know what, academics, yes, I try to stay part of it. Everybody here should say, hey, SMS, why don't we talk more about how to enrich our practice and give us some more time off? You know, please, and when you fill out your form, do that, because this should be not 15 minutes. You guys agree? I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was waiting to hear 20 minutes from each one of them.
I still got 20 more questions, so unfortunately we won't get to all of them. But I'm just going to say one plug about the academics. I've done more research now having a private practice than I did when I was primarily based at the hospital, because there's so many barriers. If I want to do an ethics, if I want to do a study in my hospital, I have to go through the REB ethics. I have to go through the institutional ethics. I have to go through another ethics. However, if I'm at the private practice, I just go through the university, like our single ethics department. The other thing is, and depending on Canada, US, there's actually a lot of reimbursements that's available for research. You can get a lot of your staff funded, partially or full. There's a lot of compensation to yourself to take time off. There's so many opportunities there that you can actually do the research you want to do. And I find that I enjoy it more. I'm able to do more. And it's actually allowed us to do a lot more research in some of the stuff that Dr. Trost has been showing as well. So I think it's starting to be you can incorporate academics however you like. Okay, well, I think we got to end it here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.